Okay, notching video. Technically it's a rock challenge too, so I'm gonna try to combine both of those. What this is is a piece of heat treat that I just roughed out into a biface, but it's too wide for what I'm gonna make out of it. So I've got some room here to show you how to notch something thick. I'm just gonna go straight into the notching. I'm gonna prepare it a little bit, but not too much, and show you, or try to show you, how to notch a thick piece, just in case you guys, some of you cannot thin it down and you want to notch your piece anyway. Can't get them thin, but you still want to notch your piece. Okay, and I'm not going to use any special tools, right? I'm not going to use a vertical punch notcher or anything. I'm just going to use my normal flint knapping steel tools, just kind of in a different way, to get this notching done. Now, let's see. Gotta make sure I got all my tools. All right, I'm gonna use my modern tools. I've got my ABO stuff here too, but I'm gonna save that for a little bit later video. I don't know, maybe tomorrow or something. I got to get back into doing these videos. I've been spending a lot of time looking for places to harvest arrow shoots, right? It's one of my favorite things to do. I like it 100 times more than making flint knapping tools, which people have been asking me to do. So I've been kind of goofing around, walking around the trails and stuff around here. There are hundreds of trails out here. Anyway, okay. Let's see, what was I going to do? I do need to prepare this a little bit, this little thick freeform. I don't know what the ratio is on this. Let's see, 2 1/4. It's a 1/2 inch thick. Let's just say it's 2 inches by 1/2 inch. That's 4 to 1. You know, you don't want to go any thicker than that, right? I don't think you would. Are you guys thicker than 4 to 1? Like 3 to 1? And then try to notch? Let me know in the comments and I'll try to do a video like that. But anyway, this is 4 to 1. I'll probably get it down to like 5 to 1 comparatively on the edges. Some of you might be saying, no, that's still too thin. And you're using heat treat. Not supposed to use heat treat. Well, I'm going to go 4 to 1 or thinner and not use raw material that's really, really tough, because I'm not insane. If you are using really, really tough material to knap and you're thicker than 4 to 1, I don't know what to tell you, except in 10 years you'll be in my position where your wrists are starting to give out. Okay? And then you got to go to Wimpy Rock in Obsidian and stuff, and take breaks from napping, and then forget half of what you know. All I need to do is sleep a couple times, and I can't do any notching. I don't know about you. Anyway, I'm going to prepare this a little bit just before I notch, just to make the edges more regular. I'm not going to thin it down. I think I know what I'm going to make out of this. Yeah, I'm going to make a point out of this later, not in this video, but later I'll make a point out of this that I can haft into a knife handle. The kind of knife handles that I've been showing, or that I showed earlier. But I have room on this, since it's wide, to put some notches in so I can show you. And maybe I'll stall it on purpose so I can show you how to use a file. For those of you who already know all this stuff, you might have me in the background so you can fall asleep or something. You know, just have the video on in the background. So it'll be pretty boring. Might be interesting to see how fast you can fall asleep to this. All right. So What kind of heat treat is it? Is it a really easy heat treat, or is it a tough heat treat? Or is it a quirky heat treat? Something that really is naps weird. No, this is probably some of the best stuff you can get heat treated. It's a Central Texas tabular, I think. Lightly heat treated, not too hot, right? It's 400 degrees or less. Anything over 400 is heavy heat treat. Under 400, light heat treat. Light also means not too long. Like a heavy heat treat might, I would say, more than 4 hours in the heat at maximum temperature that you're going to heat it at. And lightly heat treat is less than 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So, I mean, less than 4 hours. So less than 4 hours, less than 400 is light. More than 4 hours, more than 400 is heavy heat treating. I guess I can use that as a rule, right? Whenever I talk about heat treating, like lightly heated, you'll know that it's either under 400 degrees or under 4 hours of heat, or both. In case you're wondering, in case you're just brand new to this, just tuning in, and you go, what's heat treat? What is it? Is it like a treat like cookies? No. Although cookies are a treat. I don't eat cookies anymore, by the way. But anyway. No, it's not that kind of treat. It's called thermal alteration in the archaeological texts. And yes, it was done in the past. And yes, it was done by everybody, regardless of what you might think. Heat treating is over 75,000 years old. Like right when our species made a turn and became Homo sapien. Homo sapiens sapien. Right, somewhere between 100,000 and 60,000 years in there. We became smart. We started heating up rocks at that time too, to change the properties so that we can make tools out of them more easily. Because, you know, Joe over there was ruining his wrists and elbows and shoulders on a really difficult rock, and then became an invalid and had to beg for food. Yeah, but you gotta learn on tough rock, man. You gotta learn on tough stuff and beat on it for years. No. It's not the way they used to do it. Just saying. They could not do it that way in the past. Because obviously, it takes its toll on your joints. If you ever work with raw material that's difficult to nap with natural materials, you know what I'm talking about. It's not sustainable in terms of being able to do it without injury. I'm going to try to take out this little step area. Nah, never mind. I'm not going to take that out. Okay, let's just get right into notching. It's already been almost 9 minutes. See, I just made the edge regular so that I can do this in a more formal way. Okay, because what I'm going to do is, I got a nice regular edge. Just going to pick a spot on one side and start notching, and then go and do the other side in the same spot and make it symmetrical, and try to notch into this thick material. In a perfect world, I would always remember how to do this. You know, preliminary thinning into the area that you want to notch. I would always remember this, but I don't always remember it. Mainly because I say to myself, I can notch through there. I've done this a bunch of times. Should be easy enough. Should be easy enough. But sometimes I get, stalling. This is going to be thick right here on this side. If I try to notch into it, this is really, really thick, but I'm going to try to notch into it anyway. All right, here we go. Maybe I'll do some vertical stuff a little bit. You'll see. All right, so I'm going to try to thin this area, but not with really long flakes. Just enough to get this area scooped out so that I can get the edge kind of thin and then start the notching. All right. I'm just going to crunch in the notch in the beginning. That's not really much of a scoop out, but it's a start. A bigger one would be better. All right, so here we go. Yeah, but I want narrow notches. Do narrow notches. This is not narrow enough. Yeah, well, again, I'm not insane. I'm looking at how thick it is. One of the rules is if you go thinner or more narrow on your notch than you are thick, you're going to run into problems. If you go more narrow than you are thick, you're going to run into problems. I'm going to show you how to cheat a little bit so that those problems are not as bad. All right, I'm going to do a vertical punch. All right, so with notching, if you watch my first video, conchoidal fractures are much more relevant, right? So you got to be careful when you punch out these flakes that you don't end up with a circular bulb scar. You want to elongate it, bulb scar, because if it's a circular bulb scar, you'll see what I mean in a minute. If it's circular, if that circle intersects the edges, it's going to blow away the corners here. Okay, I'll probably have to go into this with a illustrated and lecture type video so you can see what I mean. Some of you are not going to catch on. Anyway, it's the same tool I use for hand notching without vertical punching. Same tool. It's a short handle pressure flaker, but I'm going to set it on the edge of the bottom of that notch and just try to punch in, but not straight down, because that creates a circular bulb scar. I'm going to angle it inward so it'll elongate that bulb scar. Okay. And I'm not going to go too far up. I'm going to go kind of lightly first and see if that works. If it doesn't work, then I'll go higher up on the next punch. Okay. Now, one thing I don't like about vertical punching is you can't really see what you're doing. Neither can you. You can't see what I'm doing either. I use a domed pad, same pad as always. All right, put my hand on the top of it, and hopefully with a little bit of finesse and luck, tap on the back here and see if I can punch a flake out. Okay, you can see where let me zoom in. Now, I just took a little sneak peek of the flake that popped out. And I said, okay, well, that's an encouraging sign. And then that's what it looks like. So the tool, let me see, was resting on the edge like this, angle at about a 45, punched it through. You can see the width of the tool there and how far up on the edge I was. And I punched out a cone that's elongated. It's not circular. See where the point of impact is right here? If it was circular, the cone would be around that impact point. This impact point would be the middle of the circular conchoidal fracture, and I would have blown away the sides here and here. But since it's elongated, that bulb is actually an oval shape. Okay, and the point of impact is not in the center of the scar. It's on the edge of the scar. So when you angle the tool like at a 45, it directs the cone inward. It's pretty much the same with pressure flaking, except pressure flaking is more of a peel instead of a punch. A punch is very forceful in one direction. With pressure, it's a little more complicated. Yeah, it looks like it's one direction, but there are forces after the release of the flake that can guide it in a different direction. There's no forces that are different after the punch. When you first punch through there, it's the same all the way. There's no mechanical maneuvering or additional pressure put on the platform in a different direction with a vertical punch that's hammered on the back. When you're doing a pressure flake, you maintain contact with that platform, and your hand on the follow through can be doing other things and still be in contact with the platform when it's released, and that will direct the flake. It can direct the flake or make it longer or shorter. Okay, so with punching, you're dependent primarily on the conchoidal fracture, and you have to manipulate the shape of the conchoidal fracture with only the preliminary forces. Okay, some of you guys that want to know all this stuff are going, yeah, tell me more. Some of you say, no, I don't want to know that. Just show me how to do it. I want to know the exact angle. I don't know the exact angle. I think you could see it when I was trying to hit it, or when I was trying to line it up. But I guess a lot of times, and I look, oops, didn't work, or yeah, it worked pretty good. It's all trial and error. All right, so now next step is scratch away the weak areas by pushing downward from the top, push downward. That's scratching. Scratch. It feels like you're scratching it to get rid of the weak areas until no more little flakes come off, and then you flip it over and you do another punch on this side. Okay, I'm going to do a light punch. Hopefully it won't be too vertical, and I won't punch out these sides. It'll be elongated like this one. Okay, 45-degree angle is a starting point. Some of you will have more success raising it a little bit. Some of you will have more success lowering it a little bit. But I think a 45 is pretty good as a reference point. All right, you can get out your protractors if you want to. I don't know. I don't care. All right, so I'm gonna hit the back of it. It shouldn't be a tremendous amount of force, just barely enough force to get that flake to come off. You guys that are new, you won't know what that means. So just err on the side of caution. Hit it lightly first, and if it doesn't work, hit it harder, and then so on and so on. Till finally you hit it so hard that it'll break the whole thing in two, and you'll go, oh, now I know the limits. Cool. Right? No, you'll throw it across the room, but you'll just try it better on the next one. All right, here we go. I can't show the... Yeah, there's no way for me to show how hard I'm hitting it or how fast I'm swinging. You just have to kind of gauge what I'm doing. All right. Somehow. I don't know. Okay, here we go. Let me take a peek. No, not too bad. All right, so here we go. See where the tool hit? That kind of thing can be seen on real artifacts too. Of course, with a natural tool, it's thicker here's a natural tool. To make it strong, you have to have a thick point, piece of antler. It's going to be thicker than that. See where it popped out? The steel can be thinner, which makes it easier because it concentrates the force. Alright, so it popped out a flake. Yeah. And it created a kind of a step fracture situation. It didn't elongate enough, but it's still not too bad. We're starting to get into thick territory, so we're going to encounter some difficulties. That flake did not want to travel, which is to be expected. Let's see if we can get it to travel on the next one when I flip it over. Okay, so I'm going to scratch the weak areas away. I can either use the face of this, the edge of the spatula, like that, or put it on top and clip downwards. Whichever way you want to do it, just get rid of that weak area by scratching downward. Some of you guys don't do it that way. Trying to think. There's another way to do that. You can get out a different tool and contour it. You can shape it with a pointy tool instead of keep using the same tool. But most guys just use the same tool. I use the same tool to dress the bottom of that notch. Alright, so I'm going to go a little bit more inward with the force to see if I can blow away a bigger flake. Or I can drive a bigger flake this time, because that last time was a small flake. Alright, hit that pretty hard. So it looks okay. I'm not peaking yet, right? You'll see how it's the same shape as the tool. Now I punched inward more on this one to try to get that flake to elongate more, and I use about twice as much force when hitting it. All right. So I did get a bulb. Not that great as far as being long, but it did manage to punch and make it thinner so that I can remove a flake from the other side. What you want is just enough room, or just enough thinness, to remove a flake from the other side. It's hard to tell the angle of the bottom of that notch, but just imagine that's the edge of the biface. If it's the same as the edge of a biface there, then you're doing okay. If it's not overly rounded or overly crushed, you know, you'll be able to pop out a flake on the punch. All right, here we go. Same tool, just stick it on the edge. I'm kind of going a little bit higher on these strikes just so I can get more bite into it to take a bigger flake out. And the more force I use and the higher I'm up on the edge, the more chance I have of blowing away all this. So I've got to be careful. Alright, here we go. I hit about as hard as last time. Not much result at all. So it's a stall. It's pretty much stalled, because I don't think I could hit it again and get any result. Let me see. If I can stall it on purpose, that'd be okay too, so I can show you how to use the file. Get it restarted. Stalling just means that you've rounded it over too much to where you can't get a flake to pop out. I'm going to try one more time. Let's see if... I don't know. We'll see. It's probably not going to go. It's just going to get worse, but I'll try it anyway. Alright. This time instead of going inward like this, I'm going to go up a little higher, see if I can pop downward. Because inward, I'm just going to crush it. So I'm going to pop downward and see if I can get one flake to come off that way. There is some flakes. I did pop out some flakes, so it was higher up. It looks like I'm hitting the sides, so it's just getting larger here. But that's okay. I did pop out a bulb, but it's getting to the point where, sorry about that, getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to pop out too much more. I've got it zoomed in so you can see what the bottom of that notch looks like. But any errors that I make in positioning are compounded because I'm so close. Hopefully it'll work. Hopefully I'll be able to show you. It's pretty well stalled, right? Let me zoom back out. Now if you're satisfied with a notch that deep, cool. But if you're doing like an andice point and you're that thick, good luck. Yeah, it's pretty well stalled because if you look at that, that doesn't look anything like one of these thin edges. That's just rounded over. On the bottom of that notch, it's rounded over, very thick. I'm not going to be able to go much further. I got about 3 minutes. I'm going to see if I can file this down and get something to pop out. Now it looks like this may be partially detached. This area here looks like it's a crack, which means there may be a flake under here partially detached. I don't want to be filing on top of that. I want to flip it over and file the other side to complete that flake, to pop that out. Okay? So let me file that just by, this is a triangular diamond file. I'm going to use the ridge on the bottom of that notch to begin with, and then I'll flip it over, I guess. If I don't make progress this way, I'm filing it like this. I'm going like this. It goes pretty fast if I use that ridge, but if I'm not making good progress, I'll just flip it over and use the flat. It depends. Sometimes one way works better than the other. I prefer to use a triangular one because it gives me options. You can see it's digging into that pretty fast. And all you're doing is you're trying to create a sharp edge down at the bottom. You don't want to be filing it like this. You want to be filing it like this and sharpening the bottom of that notch. Okay. Now, did they use files back in the day? No, of course not. How did they manage to notch without using files? They notched something thinner. Well, what if you see them? What if you see an artifact with a big old thick body and these notches that go deep in? How did they do it? They did it with a lot of prepared flaking and the perfect angles on each time they struck, with the perfect amount of force, with a good tool, a tool that wasn't breaking, or maybe they had to replace their tool with each strike. They might have broke the tips on the punches every time they strike. That's possible. You can be breaking the tip of your punch every time you strike, so either you have to resharpen it or get another one. And if you are making something for ceremonial purposes, or something as an heirloom or as a pattern, something that is not going to be used every day, then yeah, you would spend the time and waste the resources to create something that looks like that, just because it's very difficult to do. Okay, now see, I've got that angle and I've got a delicate edge here, so all I need to do is punch downward. I think I might have enough time. I got like 30 seconds before it cuts out on me. See if I can punch that out with a lot of force. Okay. All right, I hit that with a lot of force. The tool went through and then down deep. And it did punch out a cone without hitting the edges. See how it's circular or almost circular? It's a slightly elongated, just enough to get past the danger of intersecting the edge. So I was able to pop that out. And without filing it, that would have not been possible. So now I can probably get in here at the bottom of that bulb and punch out the other side and get a little bit deeper. Okay, hope that helps. I'm going to continue. I'm going to do several videos on this. So I hope that helps. Okay.